Hey everyone, it's Nightharo here, and today I'm going to tell you the one gear setup you need that will get you through every single piece of content in the game as a DPS. And I'll be doing a video just like this, covering the same setups for healers and for tanks, giving you one set. This is the most asked question I think I get, period. And I don't know why I haven't done a video on it until now. Okay, so what is the setup? Well, for your 5-piece sets, you're going to use Onsol's Torment, and then you're going to pair that with Zogvin's Warband. In ESO, you always ideally want one trial set paired with one non-trial set as your two 5-piece sets. So where Onsol's Torment, we'll make sure we have that always active. Doesn't matter where you put it, on your body, on your jewelry, what have you. You just want it always active, so you don't want it on your weapons in this particular case. You're going to pair that with Zogvin's Warband, which will be front barred, meaning you'll put it just on your weapons, whatever your front bar weapons are. That'll be Zogvin's Warband. Then on our back bar, we're going to use a Maelstrom Arena weapon, either a Destruction Staff, a bow, or a two-handed greatsword. Okay, so that's going to be in our back bar. We front bar Zogvin's Warband, have 5 pieces of Onsol's Torment, always active, and then we have 2 spots left. Now you have 2 options here. You can either go with a monster set, meaning that Onsol's Torment and Zogvin's Warband will be on your jewelry, weapons, and body somewhere, but not your shoulder or head. And then for your monster set, on your shoulder and head, you'll use Stormfist. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you where all these sets are from in a second. Now, if you have access to Mythics, I would recommend, instead of using a monster set, you have 2 options. If you're in group content where you have a healer and when you're with more than 2 people, then what you want to use is the Velothi Urmage Amulet. So this is a necklace, so it'll have to go on your neck, and then you'll use 1 piece of Slime Crawl, which is a monster set you can get very easily, which just gives you extra critical. Now, if you are solo, then what I would recommend, instead of using the Velothi Urmage Amulet, instead you want to use a Ring of the Pale Order. So it's a ring, so it'll go in your ring spot instead. Again, you'll still pair it with 1 piece of Slime Crawl for the extra critical, and that will provide you, as long as you're doing damage, that will provide you with all of the heals you need. And the only thing that will be able to kill you, as long as you're on a DPS build, a build that does good DPS, is one-shots. Literally, that's it. You have to take enough damage in 1 second that it will just kill you. It'll be your full health bar. So as long as you can keep outputting damage, the only thing you have to worry about is one-shots, which do happen. That is it. You could use this setup in anything. I'm talking about hard modes. I'm talking about solo, overland, world bosses, anything. This setup is good enough that if you tell people, hey, this is the one setup I have, this is all I can do right now, no one's going to have any problems. Now, if you get into really sweaty stuff, sure, there's all kinds of ways you can optimize, you can squeeze out more damage and what have you, but this is one setup that you could use everywhere in the game. For those who don't know, I run a Trials guild where we specialize in getting new people into endgame, because Trials are the hardest content in ESO, and so that's what we focus on. So we have a whole guild full of people, many of them extremely experienced, running the hardest content in the game, doing all the hard modes, and what I'm doing is compiling that knowledge and just giving it to you in a very simplified format. If you're still skeptical that I know what I'm talking about, I stream all the time, usually running Trials, oftentimes guiding the group through them, explaining things. I can help anybody on any role with any setup. I can give you any advice. So come by. You can ask questions there. Even if I'm in a trial or what have you, I usually have time and I can answer any questions for you. Now for weight and traits. All of your body pieces, all of them, you want divines. For enchants, all of them, you either choose mag or stamina, whichever one you decided to spec for your build, and get all of the enchants the same on that. For jewelry, you want it all bloodthirsty, and then you want all increase weapon and spell damage. And again, you choose that based on whatever you decided to spec for your build, stamina or mag, weapon or spell damage. And then for our weapons on our front bar, they're all going to be charged. If you have 2 items, just go with charge now. You can go with a poison enchant, or if you have 2 weapons, do a poison on one and a fire on the other. If you prefer something else for flavor, it's totally fine to do something different. On our back bar, we want an infused, again, a Maelstrom weapon ideally. At first, you won't have it. That's totally okay. Just use whatever you can, but you'll go with an infused Maelstrom weapon, and then we'll do a berserking enchant, which will increase our weapon and spell damage. And literally, that's it. That's everything you need. For weights, Typically you want to run 6 medium right now. That's the best for damage, and then 1 piece of light. So the slime crawl could always be your 1 piece of light, and then the rest of these sets are medium. And again, this will work for literally every single thing in the game, from the sweatiest veteran hard mode dungeons or trials to running around overland picking flowers. This DPS setup will work for all of those things. Now, let's go ahead and talk about it, and I'll explain a bit about these sets. But if you don't care, you're done. You can go ahead and move on. Let's start first, though, by talking about where you would get these sets from. So Onsl's Torment drops from the second newest trial, or soon to be second newest trial, depending on when this video goes live, Sanity's Edge. Now, a lot of people hear trials and they panic and they're like, no, I don't do trials. I don't want to do trials. If you really don't want to do trials, if you're just completely opposed to the idea for whatever reason, then that's fine. Instead, what you would use is Order's Wrath, a crafted set that came out with High Isle. Just replace it 1 for 1 with Onsl's Torment and you'll be fine. I will say though, anybody can run Sanity's Edge on normal and get through it. The groups can be a little bit chaotic because everybody's just kind of doing their own thing, but literally anybody can do a normal trial. You do not at all need perfected Onsl's Torment. No one ever does. The benefit of getting perfected gear over non-perfected gear is very small amount of DPS increase. And Onsl's Torment, what it does is just gives you a flat damage increase, a percentage increase. And then if you happen to interrupt somebody, it doubles that value. So you go from 7% to 14% increase in damage done. And while this set isn't optimal in certain situations like trials and what have you, in a lot of overland, in a lot of arenas, you are interrupting quite often. And so oftentimes both parts of that are procced. And when they are, it's one of the best sets in the game in that situation. And even without it, it's still really high up there as far as its ranking. Now the other set is going to be Zogvin's Warband. Zogvin's Warband is a dungeon set that, again, anybody can run a normal dungeon and get through it. It drops from Frostvault, so you do need that access. All these, you'll need access to the various areas with that. But Zogvin's Warband, what it does is whenever you deal critical damage, which as a DPS you'll be doing all the time, it increases your chances of doing more critical damage. And what it ends up being is about a 10% total increase in damage. There's a little bit of weighted average into all the math. We're not getting into all that, but that's why you want to use this set. So it's not like it's a proc set where it has to happen in a certain area, and if it happens in the wrong area, it's not going to help you. It just increases all of your damage, your chances of criticaling. And then the Velothi Urmage Amulet. This is useful for a couple of reasons. First off, it's going to boost all of our damage, so we don't need to worry about certain situations. None of this stuff is situational. It just works everywhere, and that's why we like these setups. It increases your damage. It also, as kind of a kiss curse, it reduces your damage done by your light and heavy attacks. But what that means is that it's less important that you're light attack weaving, so it makes your build easier and simpler, and that's why we like it. Ring of the Pale Order, that's what you use instead of the Velothi Urmage Amulet if you're trying to stay alive in solo or duo content. Again, as long as your build is doing damage, which it should be, you will not be able to die. You'll be able to do enough damage that it will keep you alive in all but the most extreme situations, Arc 6 or 7 in the Infinite Archive or something like that. But everywhere else, you're going to be just fine. It doesn't really get better than the Ring of the Pale Order. It makes any build that does good damage, which any DPS build should, any build unkillable, okay? This is your unkillable God mode all-in-one item. The Ring of the Pale Order is crazy broken. If you don't have access to mythics or you haven't farmed them up yet, getting something like Stormfist is going to work just as well. It will proc in a certain area, but it is AoE. Just really nice, works all the way around. And that drops from Tempest Isle. You get the head from the last boss running it on Veteran. It's an older dungeon, so it's not that hard to do on Veteran. And then you get the shoulders from the Undaunted Vendors. If you are running one of the mythics, then instead you're going to run 1 piece of Slime Crawl. That drops from Wayrest Sewers, specifically Wayrest Sewers 1, and it's a very easy to get set. You just kill the last boss on Veteran difficulty and he'll drop the head. That'll be the easiest thing for you to get. And that is it, guys. I hope that was helpful. I'll be doing videos just like this for healers and tanks, and then I've got a more complete gear guide that's going to be out where I go into much more detail about all of these different things. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you want to learn more about the game, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks everybody for watching.